Hey guys, welcome to episode 20 of Between the Lanes. I'm Ralph.
I'm Ron.
This week we have no race reports.
But this week's show is brought to you by Louisville Slugger.
That's right.
So what the quick question will be, how many Louisville Sluggers does it make to make an American Raceways track?
I don't know. Do you actually have an answer?
No, that's just a lot of wood. That's all I got to say.
Oh, okay. Well, didn't you and Randy go to the Louisville Slugger?
No, I went.
Okay.
Yeah, and then I had a custom bat made
For Randy.
for Randy. I can show that next week.
Oh, I figured that was it.
I have to go get it. No,
Okay, cool.
that was a $2 Louisville Slugger out of the blim pile or whatever.
Blim bin. Yeah.
Blimmed.
Okay. So last week we talked about some of the American Raceway history. And this week we have some more Raceway history, but the show is mainly going to be pictures like we use for the race report. So we want to try that out and show some pictures. And Ron will talk mainly, and I'll jump in from time to time.
Okay. And then really we only have one race report, and that was from last week. And I don't have much to report. I just know that James Price Jr. won the 7th annual Dirt Late Model Christmas race at Fast Alley Raceway in Fremont.
Okay.
So they haven't posted up any other information on the race, but James
cool.
Jr. was the winner.
Awesome.
And that's all I know, so congratulations to James.
Yep.
As far as races coming up this weekend, the only thing I really know about is the Great Lakes Retro Race, which will be at Thaser Raceway in South Bend. So that'll be on Saturday.
Right.
So that's really all I know. And I'm sure there's some other Christmas, New Year's type races going on. I just haven't seen much.
Right.
Series races goes. That's the only real series I know that's racing this weekend. So.
Right.
So everybody's Happy New Year.
Everybody's busy on the blog talking about motors.
Yep. See what you started?
I didn't start any of that. So.
Okay. So, you ready to jump into it?
I'm ready. Let's get it. Let's go.
Okay. So, we're going to talk about American Raceways and AMF a little bit more on that deal like we did last week. And, I've got some stuff here on, Engelman tracks and Revell tracks and some other stuff we didn't really touch on last week. So, we'll just jump into it. So, American Raceways was obviously, the
Wait, hold on. I got a timeout.
All right.
So the 26-page motor report that we all read,
Yeah.
I was told that was 60 hours of time and thousands of dollars.
Okay.
How many thousands of dollars and how many hours of time do you have in our show today?
I don't know. Oh, in just a day's show?
Can you top that? I mean,
no, probably not. Probably not in this show.
Okay.
I got I got a few hours in getting this ready and stuff. But
I know.
Who do I send the bill to?
Ooh, that's a good question. Yeah.
How do I collect?
You're gonna be paying yourself on that one.
Louisville Slugger needs to send me a check.
All right, let's get back into it.
Okay, so American Raceways, American Model Car Raceways Incorporated. A lot of people don't know a whole lot about it, and it's kind of an interesting story when you kind of sit back and look at it. But at the same time, there's a whole lot of still unanswered questions. So we know that they started sometime in 1962. Exactly when, I have no idea. But Tom Thumb Hobbies in Columbus, Ohio, they opened in March of 1963. You've been there, I've been there. Same location since 1963.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking 54 years old. So when they opened with an American yellow and an American orange. Okay, so if they opened in March of 1963, then they probably had to order their track sometime late 62. in order to get the tracks built and then delivered to them in Columbus. And I'll talk more about some of the stories I was told by people who ordered tracks from American and how long it took to get. But I'm just saying, in the early days, you could have got them fairly quick, but then maybe it was a couple months. So 62 is when they supposedly started. I don't have any. I've never seen any actual dated materials from them from 1962. So, but when you look at Tom Thumb Hobbies, opened in March in 63, American was open before that because they ordered the track. So anyway.
So I'm looking at the logo here. The logo is pretty cool. It's pretty American.
The logo is cool, and you're going to notice here in a couple more changes, the logo changes. Okay, so
we're starting out with like a racing wheel, like a BBS style wheel.
Yeah,
cross checker flags.
Yep, and that's good. You notice
real American looking eagle.
Yep, and you notice the spokes in the wheel. Okay,
right.
That's kind of what changes here.
Okay, is there anything significant about the red?
No, I just think
obviously the whole logo is red, white, and blue, but I don't know if the red circle in the middle, the blue circle.
I think that's just, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if there's any significance there or not. But anyway,
all right.
When you contacted American and you talked to them, and then they would, at some point after you placed your order for your track, they would send you this booklet, a 3-ring booklet. It was called the pre-opening guide.
Mm-hmm.
And inside the pre-opening guide, you had all these, like in this one, for example, you had like 24 pages of information prior to you opening a track. Like, you've got your building, you've got this book. So now you've got, like, this book is kind of like a to-do list, if you will, because it talks about ashtrays and having a bicycle rack in front of the store, a bulletin board, carpeting, cash registers, chairs, maintenance and repair, signs, stools for the drivers, trophy case, just all kinds of things. I mean,
it was a real deal, a true franchise.
It was like I said, it was like a training book, if you would.
Right.
Okay? And that was one of two books. And then, one of 3 actually, 4 actually, I guess, when I stop and think about it. So, you got your pre-opening guide, you've got this, you're starting to get your store ready because your tracks are going to they're on their way. And then the next book you get is the operational manual. And if you noticed, the logo's changed on the operational manual. It's now the same type logo, except we've got a steering wheel in the center of the logo, other than the spoked like BBS wheel.
So do we have a picture of that?
What's right there? Can't you see it?
I have the spoked wheel on the screen.
Oh, well, I changed it to the... Oh, wait a minute. What do you have showing on your end?
The American Raceways logo, the spoke steering wheel. I mean the spoked wheel with the American flag. With American Eagle and the checkered flags.
Okay, so we got to go back now. Hold on. So
it changed, but it's still the same logo.
Okay, so it says pre-opening guide?
Nope.
All right, hold on.
I got nothing.
How about now?
There we go.
Okay.
Yeah, obviously not enough hours and money spent on this show.
No. So this is the pre-opening guide booklet.
Okay.
And then, like I said, here's your index of what's inside.
Ashtrays.
Yeah.
Bicycle rack. Let's see. I want to go through the list here.
Okay.
Wow. Pit stop benches.
Yep.
Toolkits, trash cans, trophy case, uniforms.
Uniforms for employees.
Wow, man, that is awesome.
Yeah. So everything was in this booklet, which you needed to get ready. Jobbers was your distributors.
Yeah. Looks like it was 24 pages long.
Yep.
Okay.
So then the second was the operational manual.
Was there an American Raceway ashtray?
I'd never seen one.
Okay, so now I see the new logo with steering wheel. I kind of like that a little bit better, actually.
Right.
don't think I've ever seen that one before. I've made some. I've used their logo before, and I've made some like replica driver's panels,
Right.
and stuff like that with the other logo. But I've never seen this logo. I
Okay.
like it better.
Okay. So the operational manual again.
What year did the new logo go into effect?
Well, see, that's a good question
Because
because
this says 1965 on it.
yeah, and the previous one said 65 as well. So
All right.
at one point in time, American used both logos because the Model Racing Congress was more about their races, their rules, and their booklets and stuff like that, which I'm going to get into that here too. But so that's and again, it's been so long, and I need to pay attention next time that I go to an American track. On the controller panel hookup, I think they used both logos, not both logos on the same plate. They started off with the spoked wheel one, and then it changed to
Right.
American Model Car Racing Congress logo on some of the later tracks. So I got to pay attention.
Who exactly was a Congress member? Was that the Raceway owner?
No, the Congress was American had like their own Congress. Like they had honorary members of their Congress, like Richard Petty was on there, and Don Garlitz, and a lot of the real, full-time auto racers of the time. Now, I don't know if those people were paid to be on that Congress or what, but the Congress was a group of an American Raceway employees, basically.
Okay.
That ran it. So in the operational manual, again, another table of contents.
The good old braid iron.
Yeah, I mean bookkeeping, and when I have this book, and when I first read it, back in 1982 or whatever, I kind of learned, some things about business, business in general. I mean, these books were really well written.
The please system.
How to
interesting.
The please system?
Please system.
Okay, the please system is something that I learned from this book, and I still do it to this day. Basically, the please system is when...
Can I have an extra lap, please?
No. When you're standing in the raceway, let's say you're standing by a turn, and someone comes off, and you pick their car up, you're not to put it in the slot until they say, green, please.
Yeah, I do. I do that. Okay. But
if they say green, you just kind of look at them. They'll say green again, and you might say please, and they'll say green, please, and you put the car in. So that's the please system. If a car comes off, you trained your customers to say yellow, please, or black, please, and you put their car in when they asked you or said to you, please. So then the next book would have been the league manual. So like when you joined the American Model Car Racing Congress, they would send you a league manual. Okay, so this basically told you how to run races in your store using the American league system. Okay, so again, an index of everything. It just basically told you how to run races, and in these booklets, there would also be like, for example, it says.
I'd be curious to see what the prize fund was.
Yeah, well, it talks about banking money and having a meeting about it, and then, like league forms. Okay, like league forms. Inside the binder on those 3 pages would be different forms. There'd be like a text sheet, and there would be any kind of forms you would need. And then there's also like a concourse. There was concourse sheets, like judging sheets that you would have that you give one to everybody and they mark off whatever. And so you can do concourse and stuff. So a lot of the stuff that we do today came from the American league system, if you will.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
Like it talks about car changing areas, and then they had diagrams where on certain tracks where you would pit cars. Like you never would take cars off in the straightaway. Like in a king track, the changing area was between the finger and the start-finish line that was halfway down what I call the short chute between the finger and the 90.
Right.
And then an orange track, it was, I think, coming out of the bank before you got down to the 90. So all the tracks had these designated changing areas. So
remember the time you got pissed at me because
oh boy,
I forget where we were. I don't know. We were somewhere, and it was the King track, and I came off, and I was like, and you were leading, of course, and I came off, and I said something like, I was just in a hurry. You were next to me. I was trying to tell you, on the straightaway. And you come through the short shoot. You're like, you're on the fucking short shoot, not the straightaway.
Yeah, because I said, okay, because you probably said straightaway. I'm thinking the main straightaway.
You just clobbered me.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, my bad on that. I forget where that was. Though.
We live and we learn. So, okay, so moving along. Now, this is a page from a question and answer booklet that American would have sent to you when you inquired about a track, but you hadn't bought a track yet, okay? So, like,
right.
You called American and said, hey, I'm thinking about opening one of your tracks. Can you send me some information?
Because I still get this all the time. People call me, I want to open a track. How many square feet you think I need?
Right.
You know?
Okay.
So this is really cool.
So American had this figured out. Like, you know, if you was going to have just one track, now they call their tracks raceways, but if you had one raceway and it was going to be the Queen's Course, which was a figure 8 track, you needed 1,000 square feet for your raceway. That's what American felt you should have.
Now, the track was 1,000, or you needed
1,000 square foot store.
Okay.
To hold the track, plus have pit area and a sales area and things like that. Okay. I mean, 1,000 square foot store is very small. You know, I mean,
yeah.
But a Queen's Course, I don't have the footprint dimensions in front of me. I mean, it didn't take up very much space, but you still had to have space in the store for, you know.
So my question would be: did anybody ever purchase the 4 raceway package, which required 7,700 square feet?
Well,
a King, an Aristocrat, and a Royal.
Well, as we go down through this story, yeah, you're going to see some pictures of raceways that have multiple American Raceways tracks in them. So, yeah, you'll get to that. So,
okay,
you know, like for example, there's a lot of tracks back in the day had 5 or 6 American tracks in them.
Oh wow.
Okay, so basically, you know, you've got this, you know, down here at the bottom it says 4 raceways. You know, if you got 4 raceways, an Emperor, King, Aristocrat, and a Royal, you need 7,700 square feet. So, okay, so you've got this building, you know, and you're like, okay, where am I going to put my tracks? Well, American Raceways kind of had you covered because
I like how I never realized this before, right?
Yeah.
But if you go back and look at it, all the tracks are named after royalty somehow.
Yes, correct.
I've never noticed that.
Okay. So yeah, they were all named after royalty. So you had a floor plan sheet, okay, and each one of these squares represented 5 feet. Okay, so basically this layout here is 120 feet in depth, 100 feet in width. So that's a 12,000 square foot.
Right.
Okay. So you have this piece of paper. An American then would give you these little templates.
No way.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Okay.
That's
so you
awesome.
So yeah. So you could lay these out on the paper. I mean, first of all, you want to figure out, okay, I only have 1,000 square feet, and you can mark it off any way you want it, I guess, and then place tracks. So this is Ron's Raceway. This is Ron's Raceway.
Let me guess what you have here. All right.
Well, first of all, wait a minute. This is Ron's Raceway. I mean,
okay.
If I had 12,000 square feet and all these tracks, this would be Ron's Raceway. So go ahead and guess what we got here.
Okay, so you got a Sovereign Purple Mile.
Yeah, that's that one.
And then you have an orange.
That would be this one.
And then you got a red. You got a black, either a Royal or a Regal.
Right.
And then you got a King.
Yes.
And then I'm going to guess the yellow one is an Aristocrat.
No.
Okay. What's the yellow one? What's the yellow one on the bottom left red.
Okay, the yellow one is the Emperor track, which was another 220-foot track,
Okay.
like the Purple Mile.
Okay.
And then you've got the hill climb down here, which was 135 feet.
Oh, okay. Okay, I got you.
So
I was thinking, I figured the hill climb would be bigger, but
right.
Okay.
So in my dream raceway here, I really didn't figure out where the front door is, or the back door, or the side door, or where but if I had all these tracks, I probably wouldn't even want to be open for business. I mean, it would just be fun.
Where's the shitter going to be?
Well, no, I'm not even going to that story. So anyway, we still go to this raceway because it was upstairs, and they have a toilet up there, but they had a 5-gallon bucket and a little hose that drained out of it, and it went through the wall, and all that went down into the alley behind the building of this racetrack. So
wow.
Yeah,
come on,
moving right along. So of course, you would get these templates and you could figure out, and then we talked about.
Do you have all the templates, or you just have?
That's the only templates I have.
Okay.
There was other template kits. We'll get to that later too.
All right.
So American Raceways, we talked about franchising. Now, if you read this, it says that American Model Raceways Incorporated is a California corporation that is engaged exclusively in supplying equipment for installation in model car raceway centers, blah, blah, blah. To assist and continuously guide some new center owners who wish to become members of a national chain, we also sell and install complete centers. Okay, but that doesn't say franchise. Okay, and I don't know where. I guess maybe American had this idea of a national chain of raceways. I don't know if they thought it through as far as who was going to manage it and overlook it and everything. But American, again, to me, they never owned any. I mean, they never owned any raceways except one raceway of their own, and it wasn't even called American Raceways. But we're getting to that.
So at the Raceway Center in Beverly Hills, I wonder if they had one of every track set up in a building you could look at.
We're getting there, cowboy. Slow down.
Okay.
So our executive offices and showrooms are located in the Standard Insurance Building at 8447 Wilshire Boulevard, Beverly Hills, California. That building still stands today. Same location. I believe it's a 4-story building. You can Google map it. So they, you could go there and visit them and see the latest in Raceway Center equipment. So this was part of the question and answers on commercial raceways package you would send. This had a copyright of 1964. And in that 1964 question answer, there on one of the pages says, how much should I charge for track time? Well, if you'll notice, there's only 4 raceways. American Raceways only offered 4 raceways in 1964.
The Windsor, the Regal, the Monarch, the Imperial. Okay.
Yeah. So you had the yellow, the black, the orange, and the red.
Right.
And then, it says this is what you should, charge for track time. So you could sit down and kind of figure out a business plan. I'm going to be open 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, 40 hours. And I got, 2 tracks. So that's 16 lanes. And if I rent 16 lanes, 40 hours a week, cha-ching, I'm going to be big.
It's interesting that they actually charge per foot of the track, not just per time period.
Right. Yeah, the American system, I guess they felt bigger tracks, you should pay more money to run on.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting.
So, yeah, I don't know how they really calculated that out or figured it out, but that was kind of their thing. So this is another question answer kind of booklet from American. This would have been sometime in 1965, and now you notice we have 8 tracks. Because you've got the Windsor, the Queen, the Royal, no longer the Regal, the Aristocrat, which was the hill climb. They still had the American Red. The Blue King was the King. Purple was the Sovereign, and the Emperor was yellow. And again, let's go back here because I'm not sure. No, the prices were still the same like on the Windsor, so $1 an hour. And then, of course, the 220-foot tracks were $1.60 an hour, where your tracks that were 100 foot or more.
Are there any emperors around?
We're going to get to that.
Okay, because I know we talked about the Purple Mile, which is also the sovereign.
We're going to get to that. So, again,
I think we may confuse some people because with these, I mean, we talk about a lot of these tracks, but a lot of people might not realize it because we call them other things.
Well, we're going to get to that when I get to the photos of them.
We call them like oranges
Yes.
or purple miles or
Right.
whatever, you know.
We're going to get to that. So, anyway, if you notice on there, the orange is gone, the Monarch.
Mm-hmm.
And so, anyway, so American Model Car Racing Congress had like a rule book that they would sell to you would buy these from American and sell them to your customers. And then, then there was an all about model car pamphlet that you could also buy. You order them from American, and they would put your name and address of your store on the front of it, and you would hand those out to your customers or new people walking in the door, so they could learn a little bit about model car racing. And that was just stuff American sold. So we also had the official time logging book, and when you would go in and rent time, you would give them your book, and they would write down the date, who entered it, and if you had a little stamp, you could stamp it, and they would write down how many hours or minutes you purchased. And these books, I don't know, they're probably about 20 pages, but it was almost like an old savings account passbook, as we used to call them. Mm-hmm. Did you ever have a passbook savings thing, Ralph?
No.
Okay. So, yeah, this is old school. So inside that book, you'd open it up and, you put your name in there and your address, and, it'd say if this log record is important to its owner, and if found, we'd be greatly appreciated if it were returned, because there'd be no record of your time, because if you lost your book, you lost your time. So when after you would get so many minutes in your book, when you got 25 hours, you could get this neat little pin. And then they had another pin at 50 and a pin at 100.
How many people have some of those still around, the original?
I've got some I'm going to show towards at the end of the show.
I'm just getting enthusiastic. Sorry.
There you are. See, I got you hooked here. So, yeah, and then again, the Raceways would buy these pins from American, okay? And like this is a copy of the display that Raceways would buy and put on their shelf. And it had the 25, 50, 100, 250, and 500 hour pins on them. So, when you got 25 hours, the Raceway owner would give you a 25.
That's legit. I got to go find some of those. I got to eBay that.
Yeah, you can. They show up on there from time to time. So, and again, that's stuff that American Raceway sold to the tracks. And they also sold trophies. Okay, American had trophies already pre-made. They weren't engraved or anything, of course, but they had the American Raceway logo on there, or American Model Car Racing Congress logo. I don't know if you can see my cursor, but right there it is.
Yeah, you can see them
there. So, they had, and these were different prices. I think you had to buy 6 at a time or something. And then they had the big perpetual trophies, which these would be trophies you'd buy and keep at the Raceway. Like, if you're having 24-hour races,
right. Every year the winner you just keep adding your name to it.
Right. And they had a 36-inch there on the right, and they had a 48-inch one on the left. And I've only seen one of these in my lifetime. I seen it was down in Florida years ago, Raceway down there. They had an American King track, and they had a perpetual 48-inch trophy. And, it was all engraved from some time back in the 60s. And I thought, well, that'd be a neat piece to add to my collection, but never really made it happen. So those are really kind of rare trophies. You just don't see them. And I've seen a few of the smaller American trophies over the years. People, I won this back in, so. So, do you know what airmail is, Ralph? Did you ever hear of airmail?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's basically when you would place your order with American, they gave you sheets, line sheets to place orders. You'd put them in the supplied airmail envelope, and then you'd mail them to American Raceways, and they would pay the postage on that. So it's again, this is old school, because I can remember being a young boy, and you get an airmail letter in your mail. It was like it was important because it was airmail.
How much was? Like 2 pennies or what?
I don't remember. I didn't pay for postage back then because that was mom and dad's job. But yeah, airmail was a little bit more money than first class, but supposedly it was faster because you put it on a plane. And that, it's kind of like how priority mail is today.
It just looks important.
Yeah, it does. It's kind of spiffy. It's in all the American Raceway colors too. So, but that was the red and blue around the envelope. That's how airmail envelopes were back in the day. You could buy airmail envelopes,
right,
to mail in. So I just put that up there, and it's I have the brand new envelope, never been used. It's just kind of a cool little piece. So.
Where did you get that from?
It came in one of the books, the operational manual, I believe.
How'd you get the book?
Because when we bought the track, the owner that bought the track, he's like, "You want this? I'm going to throw it away." I said, "Yeah, I'll take that." So
okay.
I've had that book for 30-some years.
Okay.
All right, so here's a price list from July 27th, 1964. This would have been in the question, answer, or information packet if you inquired about American Raceway. So in 1964, now you're going to see a track on there you probably never heard of before. It's called the Liberty 60.
You're right.
6-lane, 6-foot track that American offered in 64, probably 63 and 64.
Huh.
Econoline tracks had wood paneling sides. Deluxe line tracks had the Formica, or the colors.
The heavy stuff.
Yeah. So the Liberty was a blue color, like a darker blue, I believe.
Uh-huh.
The Windsor was yellow. The Regal was black. The Monarch was orange, and the Red, or the Imperial, was red. So, but you could order them without the Formica sides. It was like less money. I mean, you're talking basically like, on a Windsor, you were talking a difference of $800. Okay. And
what's interesting too is the price of the deluxe line. I mean, like, that's basically what you would still pay now if you found one used.
Right. And like, say for an example, like on the orange track, if you did Econoline, it was $2,650. If you wanted it with Formica, it was another $1,100 for the Formica. You know what I'm saying? And that was a lot of money back. $1,000 was a lot of money back then. So,
yeah.
Okay. So, and with that said,
did you guys even have cars back then?
Cars? What do you mean cars?
Never mind.
You mean, yeah, we had them just like Fred Flintstone did. We pedaled with our feet, okay? Jeez. So, 1964, this is the Model 60, 6-lane, 60-foot track. This,
again, I mean, like, how many of those are around?
I never seen one.
If any.
So, this picture that you see, this picture was taken in the showroom at Beverly Hills, California.
Okay, which is okay. So I was asking about that.
In the Standard Building, okay? And you can see in this room they have 3 tracks. They've got this Liberty, and here they've got the Regal, and over here they have the Windsor. So this was an information sheet, and it was black and white. And if you notice, if you look at the controller hookup, here's where you notice the big difference. The controller hookups only have 2 posts, and those silver things on there are ashtrays. But it's not, it's just like a ledge type hookup panel. It's not a box construction type panel like all American tracks had.
Right.
Okay, so these were probably prototype tracks, or the first tracks that were built.
I love those track legs, though.
Well, those, okay, and those legs were replaced because all the American tracks had chrome legs, okay? So This is one picture of the Model 60. And if you notice, you come out of the bank and you immediately go into the S's, okay? And you've got a left, a right, a left, and then straight. Well, maybe there's another right there and then straight under the bridge, okay? This is another picture of the Liberty 60, and this is the Econo version because it's got the wood paneling.
Mm-hmm.
But when you come out of the bank, you've got a straight section before you get down to the S's. So,
wow, and they pay all the freight on them. Wow.
Yeah. So there was two different Liberty 66s that was built.
There's so much less cool without the Formica sides.
Yes. Yes. Yes, I agree. I've raced on the Econo tracks and I've raced on the Formica, and there's nothing like racing on the Formica tracks. I'm sorry. It's just they have a different feel, a different look. It's just a different atmosphere. So that's our Liberty 60 track. This is the Windsor track, or the yellow, 80 foot. Again, notice it's got a ledge type panel. This track looks like it has 3 terminals to hook your controller up to.
Well, it's got
what?
I don't think there's more than that.
Well, no, you've got 3 here, 3 here, 3 here, 3 here, 3 here.
Oh, yeah. But you're talking about 3 individual. Okay.
3 individual, right? So now, if you, I don't know how well you can see this picture, but if you've been on a American Windsor?
Yes.
Okay. If you notice on this Windsor, the S's start clear back here, coming right out of the bank.
Right.
And there's S's and S's and S's and S's and S's and under the bridge.
Right.
The Windsors I ran on, you only had one set of S's, and they started about right here.
Yeah, right. It was like halfway down the straightaway.
Right.
Yeah.
So this would again been very early in the American days, a prototype.
That's not a bank either, by the way.
No, because the Windsor had like a 10-degree bank, and that bank is pretty flat on there.
That's a flat 180.
But the rest of the track was flat, for sure. So, and if you notice up here, there's the American Raceway logo to come with the eagle and a steering wheel.
Yes.
Okay? And there's an early lap counter, which we'll talk about that a little bit later. And here's a picture of the Model 90, which was the Regal, which also known as a black because of the black Formica siding. Pretty much looks like every one I ever ran on. The donut kind of has a different shape.
Yeah, that donut is real pinch, sort of.
Yeah. And again, I'm sure it was a prototype first built track. Other than that, I can't really notice any differences between it other than, like I said, that donut's
It's definitely more D-shaped.
Yes, definitely
like
more
D.
Right, where every other Regal I ran on was more round.
Yeah.
And this is the track, folks, that you ran down the straightaway from your right to your left.
Into the lead on.
Down the lead on, across the bridge and down the donut, come out from under the bridge, up the short chute, and into what they would have called the switchback section. So when you look at this track, if you turn your head a little bit, that's basically American King track, okay? If you go in the direction of a King track, down into the straightaway would be the big bank, come down into the dead man, out to the finger, down the short chute into the 90. So,
but it's 2017. If you're going down the donut, you're going backwards nowadays.
Okay.
Sorry.
No.
I just have to say that.
Okay, so here is a drawing, not a picture, of the 100-foot American Monarch orange track. So, again, this goes back to 1964, and apparently they don't even have one built yet because they didn't have one to take a picture of.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's what the orange was going to look like. And then was the American Red. And the biggest thing of difference between a red and a blue King, Reds were a 5 foot shorter lap length. The bank was much more narrower, and you had what everybody called the D donut.
Right. So they were 150 feet instead
150.
of 155.
Correct.
With a D-shaped donut.
With a D-shaped donut. So.
And note too that this says the Econoline versions had wooden pedestals, where the deluxe they were still offering the metal pedestal.
Right. So, at some point, American then made color photos of these first 4 tracks, and American opened up Tom Thumb Hobby Center, or maybe it was called Model Car Racing Center. It was a Tom Thumb Center. It was in Panorama City, California. And it opened, let me go through my notes real quick, because there's more on that down the road too. It opened in like November of 1964. So American went and opened their own raceway.
I like how they cut the carpet out.
Yeah, called it Tom Thumb, and they put their tracks into this center. And they, if you notice, the colored stools. And I'm sure they also used this as their platform to write the books. The manuals, the operation manual, the pre-opening guide. And then, of course, they got into racing, and they could write the league manual.
And I like how they got chairs so the audience can sit around and either marshal or watch.
Spectators. So, here's the Regal. And if you notice, here's a race director stand.
Yeah.
Here's their bulletin board section over here. In the background, you can see the American Red. Okay. And then there's that montage thing that they had in the Raceway. And then we go to the American Orange, and there's the montage thing behind the orange.
Look at that big hump in the straightaway.
Big old hump.
Yeah, buddy.
Okay. And this orange pretty much looks like all the oranges I ever ran on. And again, you got your colored stools.
And you can really see like how off camber that the 90 looks,
Right.
Wow.
Yep. And then back here we've got the American Yellow, the Windsor. And here's the red track. And this is a photo of their photo, and he kind of cuts some of the donut off, but you can see how you come out from under the bridge, and it's kind of, a nice little arc or radius, and then you go straight, and you got another radius. So, and again, colored stools. So, American Raceways is now kind of up and rolling. They got their own raceway, and they got all this information.
And what year are we in now?
We're in like 64 into 65.
Okay, we're still in 65. Okay.
Okay. So then, if you when you asked American for literature, they would send it to you in like this really nice. I just happen to have one of these. Very professional, very classy for the time, printed, envelopes. They had a nice little label on there. So.
And they're using the steering wheel logo.
Yep. This went to B&W Hobby Shop in Clarksville, Indiana, and had pictures of the tracks in there and other information. So
they have the wrong address too.
Yeah, because they're apparently on Highway 131, Route 12.
Yeah.
So then this ad came out in October of 1965. This is talking about the new Sovereign course, the big American 220-foot Purple Mile track. They now are up to 14 models, which was actually 7, because they models, 2 different versions, gives you 14 models.
We were talking about a Purple Mile. Was it on the show, or were we just talking about it?
We talked about Purple Mile last week on the show.
Okay, so I think we mentioned that there's one in Modelville.
Yes.
And I did a little digging to find out about the one that was here in Georgia.
Okay.
So the sad story on that is that was owned by Tim Ferguson. Tim Ferguson's one of the coolest dudes you ever meet, nicest
Yep.
guy you'll ever meet. So he had a raceway. It's called Georgia Hobby Center. And around Christmas time, his store got broken into.
Yeah, years ago.
They completely wiped everything out.
Right.
And all his Christmas stuff he had on consignment from a distributor.
Okay.
So he didn't have he got cleaned out, so he had no money to pay the bills. So the distributor took the Purple Mile as payment
Oh.
on all the money owed.
Okay.
And they came and got the track, and the last he knows, it was stored like in their driveway or a carport, and
It got ruined.
he assumes it got ruined and never got put up. But that's the story.
Okay. So, this ad is dated October 1965. Back in the day, usually it was anywhere from 30 to 90 days lead time for an ad. Like you would give the magazine your ad copy in October, maybe as far back as September. Well, it could be anywhere from September back to July.
Now, this is interesting. This says, here's your opportunity to cash in on model car racing, already a $200 million industry in America's fastest growing family hobby sport.
Yep. I think that was relished a little bit or embellished a little bit.
Possibly.
Okay. So again, here we are getting ready to go into 66. Halfway through 65, Americans are already making new tracks. And before I go any further, I mean, that's a good question. That's another unanswered question. Who designed these tracks for American? I don't know. Somebody somewhere, was it one guy or three guys that said, okay, let's design a new track, and we're going to make the straightaway this long, and we're going to put the bank here, and we're going to do this. I mean, I don't know who did that, but they came up with some cool designs. I guess probably just because we learn them over time, and that's what we know. But I mean, they had a good variety of tracks. So there's the Purple Mile, and of course, we've got the red, and we got the yellow, the Windsor, and we got the orange, the Monarch down here in this ad. And, of course, American Model Car Raceways, it's got the old spoked wheel ad. And, about that time, too, they came out with the Aristocrat Hill Climb, but they were now promoting their 4-in-1 Raceways, which was accelerators, foot accelerators, steering wheels, and then you had, like, the T-slot. This is when the T-slot track started with the dual drive system or the dual car system. And we're going to get more into that.
And the Purple Mile that was here in Georgia, it had T-slots in it.
Yes, because when the Purple Miles came out, like when what I'll call the second generation American tracks, when they went from the first four original, and they went to the newer, like the Emperor, the King, the Emperor, the King, the Sovereign, the 66. And then like the red, which they still had in production for a while, along with the yellow and maybe some of the oranges, they had the T-slots. So they would be able to use both the steering wheel, foot accelerators, and the dual drive system. So we're getting to the dual drive system and why it was a T-slot and all that. So, here's another ad. This was March of 66. Americans really pushing the whole steering wheel and foot accelerator thing. Now they're up to 36 models ready to install. Okay. Well,
wow.
it was basically, the 7 or 8 tracks that they had times 4 or whatever to come up with 36 different models. I mean,
that must include the Econos and the Deluxes.
Probably. Yeah. Econos, Deluxes, plus with steering wheels and foot pedals and without.
Right.
Okay, now this is a nice color brochure that you have got in an information packet from American. It was it's an 8x11 with a fold over front cover here. This folded over, real nice, thick kind of parchment type paper, and you opened it up, and there was this cool illustration here on the right, but then it just tells about the whole steering wheel, foot accelerator deal. So just another cool kind of nostalgic American history piece, American Raceway piece. So here's your price list in 1966. And, of course, you can see where, we've got the Windsor, the Queen, the Royal, the Monarch, the Aristocrat. All these tracks would have been made with T-slots. And then when we flip over to the next page, you've got the King, the Sovereign, and the Emperor. All these tracks would have been with T-slots because you've got the different options. You got HC, which is hand controllers only. WFDS was you could use hand controllers, and you could use the steering wheels and the.
Well, it was pre-wired for conversion at a later date. It's
right, and then WW was ready for immediate operation with steering wheels and foot accelerators only. This model cannot be used with hand controllers. And so that would have been like an amusement type track. I
wonder how many of those were built.
Well, that's a good question. And then the model DDS was wired for use with both hand controllers and steering wheels and foot accelerators. So, of course, however you ordered those, it had a different price.
It'd be so cool if we could dig somebody up one day that used to work there or was like an executive or something.
Well, all those people would probably be deceased by now because you're going back 54 years.
Unless they were like a teenager.
Well, if they were a teenager in their early 20s, chances are, yeah. But I thought I found one guy, and I sent him a letter, and I never heard anything back. And I don't know if I had the right guy, but it was one of the guys. He was still living out in that area. I took a stab at it, mailed him a package, never heard nothing back. So, again, you've got your pricing on how you wanted it wired, and then with or without the steering wheels. And in deluxe. So, if you were at a Windsor deluxe, it was $2,550. But if you want it with steering wheels and foot accelerators, the price was $4,700. So those steering wheels was like a $2,400 option.
Yeah.
A $2,200 option. So, and it's kind of weird because on some tracks it's $2,200 option. Some of the other tracks, it's like a $2,400 difference. Like here, on the Emperor, it was $2,400, which basically was $300 a lane for the steering wheel and the accelerator. So those steering wheels and seats that you see, that's like $300, $1,966. Okay, so.
And even look at all the options for the power supplies and the race director stands and all that. Now you could really jack up your bill quick.
So for example, this is 1966, Ralph. That $2,700. Well, actually, it's $2,550.
Mm-hmm.
Windsor. Okay, with steering wheels is $4,700. Do you know how much that would be in today's dollars?
$12,000.
Try $37,158.
Wow.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
Okay. So now when we get over here to either the Sovereign or the Emperor, and we take the top, Sovereign, Purple Mile, Deluxe with steering wheels and accelerators. Okay, that's $10,150 in 1966. Do you know what that is today?
$40,000.
$80,246.
Yeah.
Okay. Now you got to remember, back in 1966, the average car price was $2,650. That we're talking new cars, brand new cars. Okay, where the median price for a car today is $35,000. Okay, so everything kind of, median home price in 1965 was $20,000. A medium home price today is $313,000. So everything kind of goes up accordingly, 8 to 10 times what it was then to now. So, and then you have like your average wage back then was $6,450 a year, where today the median wage today is $59,000. So, yeah, I mean, but we look at today and you say $10,000 is not a lot of money. Man, that was huge money back in the 60s. I mean, that was half of a house. You could have bought 5 cars for the price of an emperor or a sovereign.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I mean,
right, yeah.
It just kind of puts things into these tracks were not cheap. But, again, these tracks were built to survive a nuclear war. I mean, the tracks were really strong. They're pieces of furniture. You know what I mean? Like, and here's something, when I was thinking about this, like, for example, let's say you have an original American King today sitting in your store. What do you insure it for? Like, what would you insure that for? Because there is no replacement. If your store burns down and your King track becomes ashes, you cannot replace it.
Right.
Okay? You cannot replace it. It's like an antique or some ancient artifact. You can't replace it. So what do you insure it for?
That's a great question. I mean,
the
price of a new track or what? Or inflated price or what?
I mean, you could have a new Gurney King built for $20,000 or less, but still, it's not the original.
Right.
It's not going to be even close to an original. So in 1965, they came out with the Queen, which was green. I've only seen one of these tracks, the figure 8. Used to be down in Florida years ago. Was down there and did some. Actually, I ran some motors in on one of those to get ready for a race over at American Hobbies in Orlando. And there's the American Race Director. That was new for 65, 66. There's your steering wheels and your seats. And again, we're back in the American Raceways Tom Thumb Hobbies store of theirs. And the Regal has been replaced with the Royal. And you can see in the background, the red has been replaced with the King track.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we talked about this last week, the direction that you ran the Royal. This track was set up, and from the beginning, American wanted to design this track to run the opposite direction of a King track or down the donut, okay? And you can see on this track in the picture, there's arrows pointing to go that direction. So, again, back to the controller hookup deal. Into the straightaway, black lane is at the end. What would you call the top turn on this track? You've got the red controller or seat hookup down here.
Now, when I ran on a Royal, we went to the right.
Yes, you ran in the direction of a King track.
Yes.
Okay, now on those tracks, the panels are opposite. Now, if you go to Modelville and you go to Fremont, Ohio, both have the American Royal today. Red is here where black is.
But they still run to the right also, right?
Modelville runs their track in the original American direction, but their panel is opposite for that.
But fast tracks, you run to the right.
You run to your right like a King track.
To the bank.
Red's here, okay? So at some point, American realized you can run this track the other way, and it may be better for marshalling or whatever. So, but when they did that, they reversed the panels on the track. So if you go to a Regal and black lane is coming off, you come up the donut, you come off that turn, and black is there, you're supposed to be running it down the donut. That's that track at that time, as far as they knew, the tracks went that way. And if
that's a fun track to race on.
Yes. So, here's our trophy case over here, like in the pictures before. Now we have the hill climb. Now the hill climb, okay, we're going to go back here the hill climb is back over here behind the trophy case. You just can't see it, okay?
Okay.
Or the bulletin board trophy case. So here we have an Aristocrat 135, also known as a hill climb.
Dual crossovers.
What do you notice? What really sticks out when you look at this track?
Looks pretty narrow.
Okay, but it's you think it's red Formica.
Yeah.
Okay, it's like it's red Formica.
Right.
Okay, so when we go over to our next picture, this would be the Econo Hill Climb.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, now on Econo tracks, because they didn't have a thick wall, okay, they had this yellow plastic that went on top. It was called a cap. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
That was yellow. All American Econo tracks had that yellow cap to put on top of it because that edge is very rough. It's not smooth.
Right, right.
So it's kind of like a hand protection, but it also makes the track look better. Okay, so here we go. This is the Aristocrat 135 Econo version. Now, we're going to get to that in a minute. So anyway, here's the Blue King. And
looks like Tom Thumb Hobbies.
Looks just like Tom Thumb Hobbies, yeah. And right here is the black. Back here, I'm going to say is the yellow, but I'm not sure because it's really hard to tell in that photo. And then the Purple Mile. Now the Purple Mile, this Purple Mile, the story with this is, this Purple Mile is in Playland in San Francisco, California. Playland was like an amusement center, okay? American built the prototype Sovereign. This is the prototype #1 Sovereign track that was built, and it went to Playland because they had plenty of room to set it up in. Now, Playland was a multiple track operation. Back behind, they had the red, they had a Regal, and they had a yellow. And they could have had another track here at one time, but I'm not too sure on that. But this famous photo, the American Raceways promotional photo, was taken at Playland. And track #1 was there. And this is the track that's at Modelville.
Oh, that's it?
That is the Modelville track.
Wow.
Yes,
so they got the first ever Purple Mile.
right. When Playland closed, this track, along with the other tracks in the building, went to Texas.
Okay.
And it was set up in a raceway there. All 4 tracks were set up in a raceway. It didn't last very long. And then I can't remember the guy's last name, but Doc in Odessa wound up with all these tracks. And he had kept the Purple Mile in storage up until Modelville purchased it, or Peter Lintros. Peter Lintros purchased this track from Doc and moved it to Modelville in Ashland, Massachusetts. But that is the track. So if you've been to Modelville and you've raced on the Purple Mile there, you can say I've raced on this track. That's the track.
Right.
Okay. So the next track is the Emperor 220, and this is another track that the American didn't have a track built yet, and they just used an artist rendition to mail out as a promotional thing if you was interested in the Emperor track. Now, the Emperor in the Sovereign, the Purple Mile, they're 220-foot lap length, which in 24 scale is an actual mile.
Wow.
Okay.
Right.
So American offered 2-mile tracks, 2 1-mile tracks, and the Emperor was the second. Okay, so the Emperor is kind of, in a way, somewhat kind of similar to an Engelman, but it had crossovers like the American Hill Climb to equal the lap length out or make it as close as possible across the 8 lanes. So you'd start here in front of you and you'd go through the crossovers. So if you were on red on the outside, you would be on red in the middle, coming through the first 180, through the 90, through the big bank, down here, and then you cross back over and you'd be on the outside down through here. Or black, you would go from the inside to the middle. And if here you're on blue, you would be on the inside here. then the out, and then the inside, and then back into the middle. So, yeah, it's like an old American hill climb. It just kind of tries to equal the lap length out between the cars. So most people will only see it here on Between the Lanes, episode 20. There's a partial photo of an American Emperor. This photo was taken at Buzzy's Raceway in New York, Brooklyn, New York. Mm-hmm. Buzzy still has the Emperor track. The Emperor track is in his basement, disassembled. Okay? And this track, Buzzarama, was the site of the 1979 USRA Nationals, and this track was set up in the building at the 79 USRA Nats, but it obviously came down at some point after that, because I know guys that went to the 79 Nats that remember the track and maybe ran some laps on it or maybe broke tires in on it. But so this is a photo, partial photo of the Emperor. Now, you're like, what's up with the chick there? Well, the chick was one of Buzzy's bunnies. Buzzy used to hire fairly attractive women and use them as turn marshals on the weekends or in high traffic periods. And the bunnies' jobs were to put your cars on when you fell off. So this picture, we see our bunny in action, putting on 2 deslotted cars. And, you got to kind of wonder what some of these guys might be looking at over here. But anyway.
The FNRS, we're doing it this year. I'm in.
Okay, so she's been over and you can't see the crossover, but there's a little bit wider shot of the bank. Okay. Now, what's different between the actual track and the artist rendition, if you notice the crossover here, red would go over the top. The actual track, red went under. So, and of course, you've got the slotted wall for visibility.
The walls are different, yeah.
Yeah, you got the slotted wall. So, there's the Emperor track. Now, Buzz told me years ago when he got his Emperor track, when it was delivered and they started to set it up, when they were putting the track together, the bank, I don't know which bank, I don't know if it was the bank you can see or the bank we can't see, section of the track didn't want to bolt together. So he said he got on the phone, called his American representative. Within an hour or two, there was 3 guys showed up with a tool chest and tools, and they came in and worked on the track and made it bolt together. And they left. So the Emperor track, the rumor was there was only 4 that were ever built. Rumor was that Aurora Model Raceway in New York, West Hempstead, New York, rumor was they had one of these tracks, but it's never really been proven or confirmed that they actually did. Buzzy had one. There was also another one in Colorado that was set up at a raceway that was owned by Walt Disney, and they boasted they used to have 100 racers on their weekly night program back in the 60s.
Wow.
Somewhere I have an article about that raceway, but it didn't have any pictures of the Emperor, and it didn't mention it had an Emperor track. So, again, I think the late Professor Fate claimed that he ran on the Emperor at that raceway in Colorado. And then the 4th Emperor was supposedly shipped over to England or overseas, but again, not confirmed or denied. So there was only supposedly 4 of these tracks built. Very rare. And if you notice, this is a June 1st price list, and it has all the tracks, and when you get down to the Emperor, that's all been scribbled out. So, like, you couldn't order an Emperor track.
Wow.
So maybe there was a design problem, and maybe it was discovered with Buzzy's track. For some reason, it wouldn't bolt together, and maybe there was a production problem, and they said, you know what,
it was just too big and too much money. Nobody ordered them, too, you know.
Well, that could have been, too. They might have discontinued it, too. So the purple mile, the Sovereign, I mean, I roughly just a little while ago was counting up about 8 that I know of that was set up back in the day. I mean, there was 2 in Indiana at one time. There was one in Ohio. Tom Thumb East had a purple mile.
So I wonder. So you had to put at least 25% down, and then you could pay the rest off.
Correct. If you had credit, they would give you an 18-month they'd carry you for 18 months.
Oh.
So, and if you didn't have good credit, I guess, then you'd have to pay it all. You have 25% down to order it, and then pay the rest before they're ready to ship it. So that was the cash purchase plan. And like I said, it's the Emperor is no longer available to order. This was an earlier sheet for the the 5 original tracks when you count the Liberty, the 6-lane track. So again, cash purchase plan. And this comes from 1966, American Model Car Raceways, Inc., the world's leading manufacturer of commercial model car raceways. The first manufacturer with factory-built, prefabricated raceways. First with double-frame construction raceways. First with color-coded striped lanes and driving positions. First with the automatic race director. First with steering wheels and foot accelerators. As far as I know, they were the only. First manufacturer with the dual driving system. First manufacturer with dual system slots. First manufacturer with electronically controlled timers. First with an 80 amp power supply. And first with a complete tested instructional and promotional program, which would have been the opening guides and the race.
Now, I wonder if there was any actual theory behind why they put a color lane where, like how they picked what color each lane was going to be, or if they just was like, we haven't used this one yet, let's put it next.
Oh, you mean like the colors themselves, red, white?
Right.
Well, it's if you think about it, for every lane on the slot car track, except for white, they had a colored track. Green, the green Queen, the orange Monarch, the yellow Emperor, and the yellow Windsor, the purple Mile, the black Regals and Royals, but there was never a white American Raceway. Okay? So
maybe there was a design for one that never got made.
And you see, again, that would be an unanswered question.
Wow.
Okay? So
I'd like to believe that that's true.
You're going to go with that?
I'm going to believe that.
You're going to go with that? Okay. So, of course, they were the first using the dual system slot and dual driving system. And, again, more promotion on that. And here's their powers. This was the original power supply that came with the original 4 tracks. I think as over time they learned that, I don't know how many amps these put out, but I think they learned it on the bigger tracks, like the Reds and the Blues and the Purple Miles and the Emperors. This just wasn't enough. So they came out with
65 pounds, and this one weighed 82.
Yeah, they came out with the big 80 amp power supply. Is
that the one that Tom Thumb has?
Tom Thumb, I believe, has these.
Yeah, that's what I thought. It looks more like that.
Yeah, because this has a silver front where the other one has a black front.
Yeah.
Okay. And so, there's
I can't remember if it was silver or white, though. I wasn't sure.
Yeah, it was silver.
Okay.
And then you had the famous American Model Car Raceway Tester, which most people calls a dyno, because it does have a little dyno wheel in here, and you put your car on there and run it, and had these different meters. And I have one of these. It's in a little rough condition, but I have one. And then you could also test your controller on it.
$100 was big money back then.
$100. Well, these were actually $200, but this is limited time on sale for $100. This is a.
How much was a slot car?
How much were slot cars? They were anywhere from $6.95 up to probably $20.
And then you buy a $200 piece of equipment and test it on it.
Yeah. So, okay, now this letter was sent. A friend of mine, he grew up in Columbia City, Indiana, back in the 50s and 60s, and he was a slot car racer. And Columbia City, Indiana, had a little homemade track, and the owner of that raceway went to the Hobby Industry Trade Show in Chicago, Illinois. The HIA show preceded what became the RICTA show, okay, which now is the Chicago Hobby Show or whatever they have every year. So at this show, American Raceways had their new hill climb track, and they had another raceway, which I don't know what it was, but they had them there where you could sit down and run on the tracks. And So if you went there and you visited their booth, they sent you this letter, and this is the letter that came from.
Wow, and they're really pushing you hard to buy the steering wheels.
Yes.
They're saying if you don't buy the steering wheel and pedals, your track will be obsolete.
Yeah.
That's funny how that worked out.
Yeah. Do not exercise poor judgment.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that was a letter that you would have got, and I was going to look this up, and I don't remember if it was in '66 or '67. There was a big major snowstorm in Chicago, and it just kind of like wiped out the hobby show. Nobody could get into Chicago. Nobody could get out. The show was a total flop, and some old timers will even claim that was the downfall or the reason for the downfall of slot car racing in the 60s. Now, whether that's true or not, I don't know. But so this is a letter that American sent to a purchaser of a raceway. Thank you for your order, which will be received in today's mail along with your check for $2,075. Our pre-opening guide, they've mailed it to him. Well, it was probably in with this letter. Pre-opening guide. They tell him, there's several kinds of window banners. Put them up in your windows. But what's important about this letter? On the second page, this number 783C has been assigned to your order. Okay, 783C. Okay, so 783 meant this was the 783rd track that was built. Now, when you ordered an American
track that was built or invoice that was sent?
That was the number of the track built.
Okay.
For example, it was an order. Okay, it was the order number. So they started at 1. This guy bought at minimum the 783rd track that was built in Chicago, because the C is for Chicago.
Okay.
Because there was Los Angeles and Chicago where the tracks were shipped from. FOB. Los Angeles or Chicago.
And I guess my next question obviously is, do we know how many that were built total?
No, because 783, okay, this guy was 783. His order number 783. Now, does that mean he ordered 1 track or 2 tracks or 4 tracks? That's kind of the problem with the American deal. We know that they took 783 orders for tracks, so that's a minimum of 783 tracks that was built in Chicago. But that could actually be 1,400, or it could be 1,200, or it could be 2,000, because...
Well, this guy's in Indiana. You just go drive over to his house.
Yeah, another one that's probably long gone. So the next letter... Now, okay, let's go back here, because this is November of 1965. The next letter is February of 66. This gentleman, now this came from the track that I got the booklet and stuff from, okay? So this guy bought American Hill Climb. This was in Portland, Indiana. This guy got the track. He only had it up 3 months and he took it down because it just didn't take off in the tiny town of Portland here in Indiana. So when we acquired that Hill Climb 17 years later, it was like a brand new American track. I mean, everything was, he hardly used it. So on the second page here, his order number was 906L, which means that came out of Los Angeles. So I think American tried to ship the tracks. If say you were on the East Coast of the United States or maybe down south, your tracks would have came from Chicago because it would have been closer and cheaper to ship.
Right.
Versus LA. But I don't think that the shop in Chicago built all the models available either.
Right.
This was the new Hill Climb, and it was going to come out, and maybe they built tracks all the tracks at both locations, and maybe it was a time deal. But I can tell you that the guy I know in Columbia City, they paid American in February of 66 for their Hill Climb track. It was not delivered until June of 66. It took 4 months from the time they made their down payment to the time it was delivered.
Wow.
It was 4 months. So it was a 4-month wait. And they did not get one with steering wheels or, it was just a straight up controller track. So between these two letters, 783 and 906, what's your math tell you? 783, 906.
126.
783, 906. 1,689 tracks.
Yeah.
Was built up to February of, and again, that was a minimum. That if everybody ordered 2 tracks, that'd be 3,200 tracks. So American built a lot of tracks.
Right.
We don't know exactly how many, but they built a lot. So
in a small period of time.
Very short period of time.
Yeah.
So another book that came from America was for their Americana cars and parts. And it was a little booklet or a little three-ring binder, information for the American Raceways Americana ready-to-run cars. And you had the Americana Mark I car, which had the dual guide system. And you also had the rental car system, which came with the lock guide. And the lock guide was the dual guide. And the basic ready to run came with both guides, a conventional guide and a lock guide, where the rental car came with the lock guide, which was also the rental guide, if you will. So there's what the bottom of the car looked like, the Americana Mark I, and that is the lock guide, okay? As you can see, it's got 3 pieces of braid on each side, and it's got kind of like 2 blades, and then this lock feature, which was actually the T-slot. That would go in, you had to put these cars on in a certain part of the track.
Right, yeah.
And then that fell into the T, the undercut, and then the cars wouldn't come out of the slot. So there's a close-up, not a very good close-up. So, I mean, it's really hard to see how that locked in there, more or less. But that's where your T-slot...
Well, if you've ever seen a T-slot, you'd understand.
Right. Okay, so...
Now, do the Modelville tracks have T-slots?
Well, I would say that the Purple Mile does. And the Royal... See, the Royal, I don't know if it has a new top or not on it, because that track was redone, and I don't know if they put a new top on or not. Now, Girding retopped the hill climb there, and it's not a T-slot. That has a new top on it, so that would be just like today's track as far as the slot goes. So then you had the Americana Mark II car, which was pretty much just like a conventional ready-to-run slot car. And they also made a rental car in that version. But these did not come with the lock guides, according to the literature. And then there was a display, Americana display, that Raceways would put on their showcase, or maybe in their showcase. But as you notice, it spins out but never spins off.
Lock guide, L-O-K.
L-O-K. L-O-C.
No, it's K. Pretty sure.
Well, we're going to go back because... Oh, it is L-O-K. Look.
That's right.
Okay. So, never spins out with the lock. Look. So, this is some more photos of the Tom Thumb Family Hobby Center in Panorama City, California. And this, again, is an early version of this sheet, because here is the orange track here in the foreground, and then here's the yellow, the Regal, and the red. And notice our little famous collage back here. And then this would be after they've replaced the Regal with the Royal and the red with the King, but the orange and the yellow still are there. Each raceway has an automatic race director. Now, this is dated November 30th, 1966. This is like the beginning of the end. Because now they've got all these promotional materials, and they've got all of these tools and repair stuff, pit stop signs. I mean, pit stop signs were normal $12, are now $5. This is like we're blowing stuff out. You know, like going back to this, First come, first serve. No refunds, no returns, transactions final. And if you notice, when we go to this page, American Model Car Raceways now has a new address. They didn't have their showroom anymore in the standard building. They moved their offices to a very much smaller, lower cost facility. Now this is dated January 31st, 67. And again, we're still blowing this stuff out. And this is a very important letter because this is dated November 27th, 1967. It is sent to a potential Raceway buyer in New Albany, Indiana. And thank you for our letter, November 20th, 1967. Although we are only manufacturing the large 16-lane raceway for amusement parks nowadays, okay, so it's November 1967. They're only producing one track. It's a 16-lane amusement track. That's all they're doing. All the other models.
Is there a picture of this anywhere? A 16?
I'm getting there.
All right.
In a second, you can roll your drum. So we don't make any other tracks. We're just making this one. We have for sale a used deluxe model Monarch 100 in good condition, which sold for originally $3,600. We will sell it this time for $500.
Wow.
We have a red track, which we will sell for $700. We also have a small lane, 6-lane Liberty Econoline that we're going to sell for $250. The red and the orange was in the Tom Thumb Hobby Center. That's now closed. The little Liberty came out of the showroom that was in Beverly Hills. It's taking up valuable space in our warehouse. So there's your 16-lane American Raceways.
Okay, it looks nothing like I thought it would look like.
Amusement track, okay? I've only seen one of these, and I've actually ran on one of these. There used to be
Where at?
There used to be one of these set up in Daytona Beach, Florida, down on what you would call the boardwalk, which wasn't really a boardwalk then. Back then, you had the beach, and you had shops that were set up facing the beach, okay?
Right.
So in one of these shops sat one of these tracks. And in February 1983, I ran on that track, and the old man that owned it, he was probably in his 70s. I don't remember this better you steer, the faster you go in the background. I just remember the track itself with 16 steering wheels and seats, 16-lane track. He didn't have a race director stand. And it was a figure-8 type track that didn't have really like radius turns. They were more choppy, and like you really had to drive the car a little bit. And they had the Mark I Americana cars, had huge silicone tires on them. The guy only used the middle 8 lanes. The outer 4 lanes he did not use. They had probably a quarter inch of dust and grime on the lanes. And where the silicone cars ran, the track was real shiny and like almost looked polished. But you'd get up there and sit down, and it was a quarter, and the winner got a little trophy cup, like a nickel little plastic 1-inch tall trophy. And I won my race. I mean, there was eight of us. We just sat down, and it was kind of weird. It was weird with the steering wheel. If you turned the opposite direction, the car would stop. If you gave it too much gas through some of those turns, the car would get real sideways, and you were losing time. But yeah. And then there was a guy out of the Chicago area in Illinois at one time. There was an article in Scale Auto Racing News magazine in the early 80s. There was a guy who had wrote John Ford, said he had 3 of these tracks. He and his 2 sons basically went to fairs and car shows around America through the year, and that's how they made their living with these tracks. And I have no idea how many of these are built. I've had other people tell me, yep, I've seen these. I ran on them at World of Wheels car shows. The car shows, I don't think, owned them. I think just individuals bought them and would go places and set them up and make their money. But that one that was in Daytona Beach was a permanent deal. Like, that guy bought that, and he'd had it there forever. And, years ago, I remember, posting somewhere about that experience, and someone says, oh, yeah, that guy was there, and they closed that in 84, 85, and it's no longer. And because I guess that whole section of what I would call the boardwalk has been revamped or revitalized. So,
okay.
Yeah, so that's your story on that one. And
cool.
AMF steering wheels. So I'm thinking we should probably stop here and probably pick up more next week, because we've been going at it for over an hour at least, right?
Yeah, it's been a while.
Okay.
But I mean, yeah, okay. I don't know how much more you got, so.
Oh, I got a lot more. I mean.
Oh, yeah. Let's do part 2.
Yeah, we'll do part 2 next week.
Okay.
And because we won't have many race reports and stuff like that. And next week we'll talk a little bit more about American, AMF a bit especially, and then Revell and Engelman and Alltech, and that's even some interesting stuff there. So.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll just come back next week and carry on with part 2.
We stopped in 1968 then.
So, yeah, we stopped November of 1967.
67.
Yeah. Which at that time.
I think it's interesting that letter said that they're only making that 16-lane track. So
right.
I leads me to believe they must have been selling quite a few of those to still continue making them.
Right. But see, that could have been, back then, that might have been a $20,000 track.
Yeah, right.
I mean, it's 16 lanes. It's not 8.
Right.
How
effective was the steering wheel, really?
They were pretty effective. From what I remember.
How did the wheel turn?
Well, the wheel had contacts inside the hub, and somehow that all knew where you were at on the track or something. I don't know where.
What did you do to the car? How did it make the car turn?
You weren't turning the car. Okay.
Okay.
The accelerator was making the car go.
Uh-huh.
So when you turn, if you're in a right-hand turn, if you turn right, the car would
slow it down?
Well, you would slow it down with the accelerator. Okay? But if you turned the opposite direction, it cut off power to the car, so the car would stop. So I don't know how all that stuff inside there knew which way you were going, but it did. And like I said, there was micro switches and contacts in there.
Okay.
So, yeah.
All right, cool. Yeah, that was awesome.
And then, like a Buzzarama, Buzzy's up in New York City there in Brooklyn, he still runs his Royal with steering wheels.
Wow.
So you can go on YouTube and look up Buzzarama.
Wow. I mean, how many people have turned a steering wheel at that place?
Oh, a zillion.
Holy
and you
cow.
can watch videos of people, birthday parties or whatever, doing the steering wheel thing.
Right.
And see, his track might be steering wheels only. It may not.
Is he still open?
Yeah.
Okay.
He's like 92 or 93.
Wow.
He only opens on the weekends.
I'm gonna have to go there one time.
Oh, I have to. Yeah, that's a bucket list item for me. Because I mean,
we might want to make it happen quick.
Well, I know, but see, the thing is, like the Mecca. He has to be the American Raceways Mecca, in my opinion. Okay. And the second Mecca would be Ashland, Massachusetts at Modelville.
Right. Yeah.
That'd be the second American Mecca. So,
yeah.
I mean, I went out there twice, and the second time I went with Dave Gehring, and we were trying to figure out how to stop at Buzzy's on the way back, and check out Buzzy's on the way back, and it just didn't. We didn't make it happen. So it's one of those deals. Someday I got to make it happen, because I don't think Buzzy's even open in the summertime. I think he's only open in the wintertime, and he's only open on the weekends. But he's a pretty sporty old guy. I mean, you go on YouTube and look up all of his old videos, and there's dates when they were published and stuff. And
right.
So anyway, before we leave,
you got the pins?
I got the pins.
All right.
Well, I don't know how good that's going to show up, but
oh no, that's killer. 25.
Yep.
And then okay.
And I got 50.
And that stood for how many
Hours.
hours you had on the
25
track?
hours, 50 hours. And there's 100 hours.
You got the 500?
You know what? I've got 250 and 500, but they're somewhere else. They weren't with the other three. And then I have another really rare one. I've never seen this before. And this is an American Model Raceway.
We can't tell what that one says.
Yeah, I didn't think you probably could. It's really small. It almost like it might have been a little tie tack or something.
What does it say on it?
It says American Model Racing Car, American Model Car Racing Congress member.
Oh, Congress member. Okay.
Member, yeah. So, I don't know if they gave these to Raceway owners they were a member of that. I don't know how. I've never seen one of these. I've never seen one of these pins. I've never seen one on eBay. I've seen, the hour pins on eBay. And they usually don't go for very much money.
Wow.
But yeah, that's probably how you're going to find them, is going on eBay. And, every now and then other stuff crops up on eBay. So that's all I got for this week.
Okay. What's the secret word of the show?
American. I already thought that one out.
American.
Okay. So next week we'll get more of this. The next week's show will be about more. We're going to go into AMF next, and then Revell and Alltech and Engelman, and tie that all together. And then we'll have a few other raceway companies that weren't so popular, I guess, nationwide in the 60s, but they were kind of regionally popular.
Right.
Yep.
Okay.
All right.
Cool. All right. That's awesome.
Louisville Slugger says, thanks for watching this week.
There you go.
Ralph's ready to step up to the plate. So, you got anything else before we go?
Nothing.
Well, Happy New Year, everybody.
Yep. We'll see you guys next year, episode
Next year.
20.
21.
21.
That kind of coincides with the new year. 21. It'll be the first show of the new year. 21.
It will be.
All right. Everybody be safe and have fun.
All right.
Don't do much.
See you guys. Have a good one.
Goodbye.